City Council Committee on Ordinances, License, and Legal Affairs, co-posted with the Committee of the Whole, met in the council chamber on Wednesday, October 11th, 2017, at 6:30 PM for the matters, for the purpose of discussing the matters listed below. Notice of this meeting was posted on October 5th, 2017, at 5:29 PM. This meeting is being recorded, and it's also on SATV. So the matter discussed the draft ordinance relative to management and elimination of gas leaks. Present are Councilor Lovely, Councilor Dibble, Councilor Ryan presiding, Councilor Famico, I'm not sure if she's running late, and Councilor Sargent, who's a member of the committee. I don't believe he's going to be here. We also have the city solicitor here and some residents, and the tree warden, was that the former man of many duties, Mr. Renard. All right, do you want to start off, Councilor? We'll start with Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This has been let's all shut off our cell phones.
Councilor O'Keefe used to say, please extinguish your cell phones.
I just put the fire out. At just about every turn along this process, I've learned new things. And as I keep learning why these gas leaks are left to be unattended, not being fixed, and why they're being left to be able to leak for 5 years, and on, it's more and more unacceptable. It's mind-boggling, and the majority of the people of Salem and throughout all of Massachusetts, they're not simply aware that this is even going on. So I applaud Pat Gazumba and the entire SAFE group, some of them are here tonight, on bringing this matter to the attention of the City Council, not once, but twice now, and I've only been a council for a year and a half. So twice they've spoken before us. But this is really the first meeting on this to find out what this City Council here in Salem can do to put an end to this, to force the gas companies to come, gas company here in Salem, to come and fix these gas leaks. I know there's a different ranking of gas leaks that a gas leak that's determined as a priority 1 is fixed right away because it's inside of a building or inside of a house. A gas leak 2 might be dangerous as well to a lesser degree, and it might be in some sort of structure. And the lowest category in the open street, they're just, every time the gas company comes out, they just drill more vent holes down the street. For up to 5 years, these gas leaks are allowed to be leaked without being repaired in the state of Massachusetts. It's almost unacceptable. There's no such thing as a safe gas leak. The gas company thinks these leaks are safe, but if you're smelling like the people on March Street by the bridge, that leak was pretty severe compared to some that I had in Ward 7. If somebody's smelling this gas day after day after day, that's just going in the air and being whipped around the neighborhood by the wind, they're smelling it on March Street alone for 2.5 years. And what happens if there's a leak in their house? They're probably going to think it's the same gas leak. They might not call it in right away. And so there's no safe gas leak. These leaks need to be fixed. I know that the state is working on getting these gas leaks fixed from a different avenue. Right now, these gas leaks are allowed to keep on leaking for years, up to 5 years, without being repaired. But that entire 5-year period, until they're repaired, all that leaked gas is billed to all the ratepayers. So I applaud Representative Tucker and Senator Lovely for taking the lead in this on the state level. But from the local side, we need to attack it from the local side to get this thing so it makes sense. And right now it doesn't. These gas leaks just keep on going on. I've called on Auburn Road near my house, for an example, and I hate to use personal examples, but I called before I was a city councilor for 3 solid years on a gas leak, and the gas company kept coming out and just drilling holes down the street. And then I called as a city councilor about a few months ago, and I said, I'm the Ward 7 city councilor. I want this thing fixed. It's been going on for years. I thought my clout got something done as a city councilor, and the thing was fixed. Well, guess what? It was 4.9 years since the gas leak was found and recorded. They had to fix it within 5 years. They did. So I guess my clout wasn't, I think, like the gas leak on March Street, it's only been 2.5 years. They came out, made a little repair, and the next day and a week later, we tested again, and it's still leaking the same, just as bad. So they never fixed it. They just came and drilled some more weep holes and made a little patch and then sealed it back up again. They're making a profit on this gas, billing the ratepayers, so what's their incentive to fix these? On top of it, they're not coordinating their work with the city of Salem. When we're doing paving, the following year, they're notified. They should get in there and make the repairs, replace the lines, whatever they have to do, and then the city will come and pave the street. Several streets in Ward 7 were just dug up a week after they were paved. Lincoln Road is one example. They came in and dug it up a week after it was paved. Doesn't make any sense. On Brown Street, there's a known gas leak on Brown Street next to in between the theater and the church on the corner. The gas is leaking. The gas leak should have been repaired, but yet we paved the street right over the leak. Now it's still leaking. It's just get pushed further out into the trees. The leak gas is bad for the environment, really bad for the environment. It kills trees, and we have not even hundreds, I'd say a couple thousand trees in Salem that have been either dead right now or died and have been cut down as a result of poisoned by this natural gas. It's bad for humans. It costs the ratepayers a lot of money. It's just bad all across. We need to take action so that the leaks are fixed, and it's done in a timely fashion, and it's done before we repave roads. That's what this ordinance is that I submitted, that is modeled after the city of Boston. And by the way, the city of Boston is now it's the only gas leak ordinance that I know of in the state of Massachusetts. We modeled this ordinance, and we had quite a few gas leak experts who are volunteers trying to combat this issue, make comments and made edits to this ordinance. The gas company is now suing the city of Boston over their ordinance, trying to delay it. There's a few other cities and towns in Massachusetts that have written gas leak ordinances, are about to pass it, and they're waiting to see which way the court case in Boston happens. So we tried to modify some of the wording in here in the ordinance so that it's not quite as strict as Boston's and hopefully fly under the radar screen. But I understand we're going to get an update from our city solicitor, who's done even more research, and Beth Renard, our city solicitor, has done an excellent job. And I don't mean to hog the whole conversation here tonight, but I'll wrap it up right now. I've spent a lot of time out there with volunteers testing these leaks, and got a pretty good handle on what's not happening throughout Salem. We simply need to find a way to get these things fixed, have the fixes coordinated in advance prior to paving, and have our city solicitor take another look at this ordinance and alter it to the point that we won't be sued, Salem won't be sued by the gas company as well as Boston is right now. But we need to do something to encourage them to work with the city Public Works Department on the paving and on getting these leaks fixed. I'll stop now, but I have a couple other things I'll share later about what the work that Salem State and SAFE is working on as well. So with that, I'll yield to everybody else in the room.
All right, thank you. Just a record note that Councilor Fumiko is present, as well as Council President Milo. Any other councilor before I let the city solicitor speak, but does any other councilor want to speak?
So, I agree with Councilor Dibble, and I've been privy to some reports that have recently been done on tree locations with respect to gas leaks. And of about 200 locations that were tested, about 15% of those had a high level of gas. That being said, my concern with respect to this ordinance, which was modeled after Boston, is that the only change that was made was to take out the word state of the art, because that was in the challenge that I went through today, City of Boston, that particular phrase was challenged by the gas company as being vague. What is state of the art? But in addition to those words, the challenge is quite lengthy and a bit concerning to me, because the challenge is that this local ordinance, Boston in this case, is preempted by state and federal law. I've looked at the state law, I've looked at the federal law. I think there is an argument to be made there that the ordinance, the Boston ordinance, conflicts with the state law, and that it unlawfully delegates to city officials in the city of Boston to come up with remedies for any trees that might have been damaged from gas. So here's what I'd like to do further, is I'd like to be able to confer with the City of Boston's legal counsel. I did speak with the legal counsel today from the gas company. We spoke at length this morning. He went through his argument with me, sent me all the documents. Boston was granted, they requested a preliminary injunction, which was granted in August, which will enjoin the City of Boston from taking any action on its ordinance. So what I'd like to do before this gets adopted in any version, to make sure that we confer with Boston, see what they're doing, and make sure that we are bulletproof. My concerns are that we're preempted from state and federal law. My understanding is there's some DPU, state DPU regulations that are underway, or maybe some amendments to that. So I need to do a little bit more research. But as it's written today, I have concerns about preemption and conflict with state and federal law.
Council Fumiko.
Thank you, and I'm glad to hear that, Solicitor Renner. Just to point out to this as well, just a glance now, on page 2, it says public services about opening up the roadway, and that's typically done by our engineering department. That's the last 13.3.2. Our city, and then it goes on to another page to talk about the engineering department. But another point for the solicitor, the Mass Area Planning Council has a division specifically on gas leaks. When I went to their open house last year, they actually had this game about gas leaks and how can you coordinate services and work across city lines. The contact for that, his first name's Patrick. I can give you his contact details, but they've also been working a lot on gas leaks in different cities and towns, and I think that would be a valuable resource for us. But I'm glad this got brought in, and hoping that we can figure out how to make this work in one fashion or another.
Council
I
Lovell.
would just ask that perhaps some of the folks here would like to speak.
Okay, if you we'll open up to the public. If anyone wants to speak, just come to the microphone, your name and your address, if you want.
My name is Dave Rowan, 109 Columbus Ave in Salem. I'm representing Salem Alliance for the Environment, SAFE. We want to thank the council for inviting us here tonight and offering us the opportunity to give a little bit of history on how we've arrived at this point. About a year ago, Pat Kazemba, who is the co-chair of SAFE, was attending some Gas Leaks Allies groups meetings in Boston and became aware of the statistic that approximately, assuming that everyone knew about gas leaks, that approximately 7% of gas leaks are responsible for about 50% of the lost gas in this state. So that means there's a small amount of gas leaks that account for a very large volume of gas leakage. That sort of changed her sense and feeling for some of the direction of SAFE as far as the current project was concerned, to focus on gas leaks. Around the same time when the Lorax Committee was starting to evolve, we became aware that gas leaks were also causing the death of trees. So that sort of dovetailed into our investigations. Last summer, or in around August, we had the pleasure of having Nathan Phillips and Bob Ackley, who's here today, came up and did a pro bono testing of gas leaks in Salem. They covered all our streets and took an immense amount of data and came up with some gas leaks map. That data is currently still being interpreted and refined, and will be actually ready for public consumption the end of November 28th, I believe on the SSU campus, Salem State University. I can give details about that later. In the meantime, SAFE had produced a couple of video programs with SATV, one which is Who Pays for Gas Leaks, and another one, Gas Leaks and Trees, which had Councilor Epley and Nathan Phillips speaking on it as well. Bringing us a little bit up to date, last 2 weeks ago, the Gas Leaks Allies in Boston held a summit at MIT involving the invitation of people from the various disciplines and resources throughout the Commonwealth to come and listen to some information that was presented as far as a study that was done as to the most efficient and quantitative way of testing for gas leaks. As well, that was called the Common Goals, Uncommon Partners Summit. And that brings us to the current point where we're still, we had asked the City Council to adopt a resolution for gas leaks a few weeks ago, which was done, and now we're moving on to trying to get this ordinance together to be able to pass by the City Council. That brings us about up to date.
Any councilors have any questions? Council Dibble.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Ryan. Just to expand upon some of the comments that Dave just made and follow up, Salem State University, their geography department is working with Professor Marcos Luna and another professor from Boston University, Nathan Phillips, they're mapping all of these leaks that are in Salem, prioritizing them, and there'll be a kickoff of this, a public information kickoff, if you would, that I'm encouraging all the city councilors and the mayor to attend on November 28th, 6:30 p.m. at the Salem State University Central Campus Enterprise Center. So the public is invited to come in on the 28th at 6:30 p.m. at Salem State Central Campus and learn more about this big safety issue, environmental problem that we have here in Salem that really people just don't know about. I mean, if you live in a neighborhood that has a gas leaking, you can smell it. Then you see the gas company come, they might make a repair or just look at it and leave, basically, sometimes. So that's on the 28th. You have the Salem State University Geography Department students that are involved in this program as well, doing quantitative analysis, doing the mapping, assisting in this whole effort. I think there's some portions of 5 classes in the geography department working on this. There's also interest from other Salem State students in the Mass PERG department to assist in getting these gas leaks fixed. They're just being brought to speed now. They will be at the November 28th meeting as well. That brings a new spirit to me, because 37 years ago, I volunteered with Mass PERG at Salem State on the bottle bill, and I was in the geography department. I have a geography major. So we have these 2 different groups of Salem State students who actively want to help on this gas leak program. They see the harm that it's making. They hear about the environmental harm that it's causing. Other cities and towns have taken their gas companies across Massachusetts to court over the dead and dying trees. The city of Newton just settled out of court, and the solicitor might know the details, but I believe it's for several hundred thousands of dollars they just received. Others in cities, and that's a portion of what they had requested. Others in cities and towns have decided not to settle, and they're going for a large amount against the gas companies. And I think that's 6 or 7 or 8, I think it's 9 cities and towns total that are suing their gas companies. There's several different gas companies in Massachusetts. So between the students at Salem State helping out, with the people here at SAFE helping out, with Salem State professor Marcos Luna helping, with Bob here from his company helping, and thank you for doing a lot of work in Salem. Hopefully you'll come and add some testimony here tonight. But the city of Salem just tested some 230 locations all around the city for new tree locations, and quite a few of them tested to be positive for gas leaks. So we can't plant trees there, because otherwise the trees will die. So there are different neighborhoods that are not getting trees because of these gas leaks. We need to find a solution fast with the help of the city solicitor, craft something back before the city council fairly soon that forces the gas companies to get in and just fix these leaks. and to do it in an organized way, so they're not ripping up brand-new streets, and doing it before we pave. Dave, thank you for being here tonight from SAFE, and for bringing this really important issue with Pat before the city council. I know it's a fast turnaround, what's been going on over the last year, but I never knew this was a problem. And I worked at City Hall for 14 years. I planted trees throughout the city of Salem for 14 years. I never heard this was a problem. And so if I haven't heard about it, I'm sure the majority of the people at home tonight and not watching and watching have not heard about this problem either. It's a serious problem that needs to
I
be
agree.
fixed.
I agree. And thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sure.
Hi, I'm Bob Ackley from Gas Safety, Inc. I want to thank Councilman Dibble and everybody from Salem for inviting me up here. I did the survey of the planting sites for the city, and it was about just over 30, I think, sites that couldn't be planted because of the gas leaks. And this is a good step. I think it saved the city of Salem resources by not planting these trees. And Steve Dibble and I think Rich and folks at the DPW and Sean McCrae had opened their eyes up to the fact that we've known at the gas company all along that gas is killing trees. And you probably lost the trees due to gas leaks at those 30 to 35 sites. So we saved you the planting, but you still lost the trees. And what's really needed here is transparency. That's what's lacking, is transparency, because Salem doesn't know where their gas leaks are. National Grid knows where the gas leaks are. Your tree department, your Department of Public Works, superintendent, these are the folks that need to know where the gas leaks are, and the residents. Everyone should know where all the gas leaks are, so we know if they're affecting a tree, what type of safety issue there is. And when we're going to pave streets, for crying out loud, let's get the old pipes out of the ground and replace them with new pipes. What happened on Brown Street is ridiculous. I was there when the paving machine was going down the street as I was testing the tree site that had a gas leak at it. So this goes right to what Steve talked about, and I worked on the Metropolitan Area Planning Council project. Fixourpipes.org is the site. It's fixourpipes.org. And we worked with coordination with the utility operators and the towns and the DPWs on coordinating the infrastructure improvement. This is crucial, because what you see all over the city is gas patches. Rich will tell you, Steve will tell you now that you start seeing these things and seeing the drill holes in the streets. This is what gas guys look for. I was a leak guy for the gas company for 30 years. For Eversource, National Grid, Bay State Gas, Columbia Gas, Yankee Gas, Public Service in New Jersey, Orange and Rockland in New York. So I got around to all the different operators to see how they were doing, what kind of procedures they had, how they were grading leaks, and we graded leaks for them. So we used to grade all the leaks that were off the street as a grade 2 back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And they would fix these leaks. But then all of a sudden they figured out that fixing leaks was a money loser. It's cheaper to let the gas leak and wait for the main to be replaced because they can get cost recovery. I'm urging cost recovery for any leak around a tree. And that way, that's coming up in the DPU rulemaking October 25th. So Salem should maybe take a look at this and comment on how many sites that were lost here in this planting, how many trees Salem potentially lost. We don't even know the number. How many other empty planting sites are in Salem right now that don't have a tree? And how many trees right now are sitting in a gas leak? I was on Summit Ave and showed Councilman Dibble what happened at Summit Ave. We had at least 3 trees lost there, 2 new plantings dying, and we had 2 trees that we couldn't plant at the location. There were 2 stumps at Summit Ave with gas right at the stumps. So you lost 2 big Norway maples there, or some kind of maples, and there was another tree across the street, and there were 2 new cherry trees put in that you were also losing. This is a lot of money that the city's putting into these trees, and Other towns are seeing this and now starting to test planting sites. So this becomes very important to the city, any city, to save money, because where's the first thing to get cut in the city? It's not the school, it's not the fire, it's not the police, it's the tree and park. That's what gets hit. So every time we lose a tree, that's a really hard-fought dollar for any community, because we always cut tree and park. We don't cut schools. We don't cut police and fire. At least in my town, that's what gets cut the first is the planting. So, hats off to everybody in Salem, from the tree warden, the DPW director, SAFE. Everyone's been very nice in seeing the light here. And we're working with other communities. And one of the first places I researched in court cases was the city of Salem versus Salem Gaslight for killing trees in front of the library in like 1928. This is nothing new. This is actually old information that's being brought out again. Everyone in the gas industry knows, and I wish the gas company was here tonight, they all know that gas is killing trees, and they know all about this problem, and none of them would let a gas leak go around a tree at their house, like I wouldn't want it at my house. So that's what I tell people. If you got a gas leak, call it in. If they don't fix it, call it in again. And sooner or later, they'll get to it. And if there's a tree on your property that may be injured, that's right in their gas leak recognition and response, if you see a dead or dying vegetation for no apparent reason, give us a call. It's right on their website. It's on Northeast Gas Association. So they recognize tree damage. They're just kind of caught in a situation now that I think in the long term will be good for them to just get cost recovery, fix the leaks around the trees. It's horrible when we lose a big tree, 30 or 40-inch tree, and it's very hard to see those in the city today. I'm sure you guys, Rich and Steve, and you long-term Salem residents will know that you don't have a lot of those trees left. And that's going on all around. We've seen the damage at the gas company over the years from the leaking joints and the leaking pipes, and it's been quite prevalent. And the word to the leak guys was, tell the customer that everything's safe, you're not allowed to talk. So the workers at the gas companies are not allowed to talk about this stuff. It's only the spokespersons. They can really get in trouble for telling a customer that gas is killing their tree. We were told not to do that. I worked as an agent. I was never a direct employee, but under the agency rules, I was instructed not to tell anybody that gas was killing their tree when I inspected leaks. Just the code words where everything is safe here. Because most of the leaks, 95 to 199% of the leaks, were not emergencies where we made a call. We would have the grade 1 leaks we'd call, and they'd come out and fix those immediately. So most of the leaks are not repaired. There's thousands and thousands of leaks in National Grid territory. I think the last number in Massachusetts was somewhere 15 to 20,000 outstanding leaks in the system. That's all utility operators. So they've let the leaks mushroom because there's no incentive to fix them unless it's an explosion hazard. So this brings to light the losses that cities and towns bear by letting these gas leaks go, and then you get your streets damaged. They do grow up to grade 1 leaks, and that's why they're fixing them. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any counselor have any questions? Counselor Ludwig?
You said we have a list of areas where the leaks are?
They've been given to Dave Knowlton and the DPW that I've detected around the tree pits.
Is this you individually or through a company? I'm sorry.
My company.
Okay.
I think we had about 25 leaks, and Dave Knowlton has the numbers. I don't have them at my fingertips. I took a look at the heat. This home energy efficiency team reports the outstanding leaks from 12/31 that the gas company is required to do under our law of somewhat transparency. We have a little bit of transparency, and only one of the leaks that I found was on that list. So, you know, whether these are new leaks or old leaks, they appear to me to be not new leaks. They appear to be leaks that have been around for a while, but it shows the kind of lackadaisical approach they take to
Would
leaks.
there be, I guess, any reason why we couldn't post those on our website?
I don't see why not.
Would you provide those to the city council?
The city has them at the DPW. I'm sure Did I give them to you, Steve, as well? Does the city have all the leaks? They should have all the leaks. They're all in PDF form. They sent them all in electronic format over to
Dave Nolte.
Dave Knowlton, yeah.
We can check with him and see, posting it.
Well, I'm not saying we should, but maybe there's some reason we shouldn't, but maybe the more that people are aware, that the more the outcry will be, and some instruction, if you smell gas, to call the gas company. I mean, people generally know to do that, but if we incur more attention toward the problem.
I suggest calling the fire department and the fire department logging where the gas leaks are in town, and they should be aware, the chief should be aware where all the gas leaks are. They get a call on a gas odor. How do you know it's not a cracked main or third-party hit or just a little corrosion leak or mechanical failure? But at least the fire department will know as they go out. If they have a live gas leak map, they'll know what they're up against. You know, they take an hour to get to a gas leak. That's what they're given. They're supposed to be there in a half an hour. State law, I think, or federal law is 1 hour. So if a resident calls in a gas leak, the guy will get there hopefully within a half an hour. I don't know about Salem. You're a small community. Geographically, I know when I called the fire department one time to my house, an ambulance, they were there in a minute and a half. So I would imagine with Salem, a tight community here, if somebody called a 911 call, your response time is probably less than 3 minutes, generally for your fire department, I would imagine. That's what I would advocate. I don't know why anyone calls the gas company for a leak. It must not be that bad if you can wait a half an hour. If there's a leak at my house, I'd want the fire department there. But,
I guess I'd have to ask the fire chief if we're trained to handle gas leaks.
they have what's called typically they have what's called a 4-in-1, gas, oxygen, hydrogen sulfide, I think, or something. They typically have a 4-in-1 instrument that they can make safe. So they can determine whether a building is safe or not. I think they should have that training, whether they can make a building safe, which all gas guys can do. I'm qualified to make buildings safe, determine whether the building is safe or whether it has to be evacuated. That's what I mean by making a building safe. You can deem it safe, and it becomes very important in the winter. You don't think it's that important, to deem a building safe, but you take a hospital or a nursing home when it's 0 out. It becomes a completely different scene. So the fire department should be trained on that, on determining whether gas is causing a hazard inside a building.
I certainly would like to see some of those thoughts incorporated into this, that a list be, at least we should entertain the possibility of putting these leaks on the website so that people are aware of them, and that we follow up that if the fire department and the police department perhaps does not have a list of these, if they should, that probably should be in the ordinance. There's some other suggestions that I might have that don't have to do with leaks, but the actual, the gas company, National Grid's pretty busy in their subcontracts in Salem right now. I have a situation in my ward, and it's Councilor Miko's ward as well, where on Dalton Parkway, they've got all their materials displayed about.
I've been on Dalton
metal
Parkway.
plates. Their trucks park overnight in neighborhoods because they don't want to take them home. These are the individual subcontractors. Nuco, I think, is the company.
Yep.
And we had them on May Street, and they parked in front of driveways and left their equipment overnight and went home for the weekend. Dave Knowlton was good enough to call them, and they came down and removed them, and they put them over on Dalton Parkway. They've got 3 backhoes on parkland in Dalton Parkway, and their parts are there. You can identify them. Most of the parts are yellow.
Yeah.
And they're just strewn about in boxes, and it looks like a construction site, which it should not. A neighborhood should not look like that. They should have a van that they have their equipment in, and they take it, or maybe the city can provide, or they should pay somebody to provide a spot for their trucks to park overnight. Certainly there are plenty of areas around for truck parking that we could arrange. And the other issue is what they're digging up. Obviously, if a gas leak happens after we pave a street, the quality of the repair is just not very good. May Street was paved 2 years ago, and we're going to make sure they come back, but I went down, the neighbors had those trucks parked, and they had a pile of sand. They just dumped a pile of sand at the head of the street on the sidewalk. I mean, nobody would ever accept that from a contractor in front of their house. I don't know why we should do that. I guess whether it's a bond, and I know we're gonna be limited by state regulations as to how far we can go. I don't know if it's this particular area, but those are some of the other items I'd like to see added in, and I'll work with the city solicitor to find the appropriate place to put that in. But I think we probably need a bond so that they don't respond to properly. I know we do have a mechanism, within the city, but I think we probably need to include it in here as well. Thank you very much for your information. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. It's very unfortunate when you pave a street and a leak comes up, but that should tell you something, that there was a failure, that if you're doing a reconstruction of a street, there should be a 1 year to 3 year coordination with the utility operator, whoever it is, whether it's the electric or telephone or gas company, more so the gas, and they should have replaced that leak-prone pipe. If there's a leak on it, it's leak-prone. It's either steel or cast iron, and they should replace that with plastic. They can save a ton of, this is to their benefit, because they save, one of the biggest costs is their paving costs. So if the city's already doing a curb-to-curb paving, they save all that money on paving for when they have to do, they have to put in so many miles each year of replacement pipe. So it's a win-win, and that's what we did with the MAPC, and we showed that. And Cambridge is really on top of Eversource and Cambridge because they have so much construction activity there. But it's the squeaky wheel. If you go out to Worcester, which is Eversource, I don't think that they're getting the cooperation or other communities. So Salem needs to, you're getting squeaky, so you should be getting some action. If you can coordinate this and show that you want some teeth, I think they'll respond, because they save money. They really should.
Just on a follow-up to that, you brought up a point relative to, they must have a map to know the age of the system, right?
Every piece. They have a map that shows, they have maps that they can color code, and they've been reluctant to give those exact location maps out, and they're not necessary due to Homeland Security rules.
Okay.
But there's a color coding that we all used for the pipes, and you can put the color code on the street so that everyone will know what type of pipe it is. And it was very simple. It was yellow was plastic, blue was steel, and red was cast iron. And there was a couple of other ones. Black was wrought iron. There might be some wrought iron in Salem. But it was very easy to see, and there were other codes for pressures as well. But Boston Gas, or which is now National Grid, has all that data, and I would ask, as a DPW and the city, I would ask for a map of where the leak-prone pipe was. You don't need, what streets is it on? Like when I came in Lowell Street and through Peabody, you can see it's 4-inch cast iron in the street. They have it marked out, these little yellow marks all over the place. So you can see by reading the streets where they already have leak-prone pipe. But if Salem knew exactly, your DPW said, okay, we're going to pave Main Street this year. Look at this, it's an 1892 cast iron pipe. Let's get it out. Let's get it replaced now when we're going to do the reconstruction. Brookline really suffered by reconstructing Beacon Street through Brookline, curb to curb with bike lanes and new sidewalks, curbing, everything. They spent $12 million. And they left the old 1800s gas mains, and they ripped the whole street up. Both sides, there were mains on both sides of the street. And another main in the middle. So they had 3 mains running down Beacon Street through Brookline, and they were all leaking. So it's nothing but patches now, going through Beacon Street, Brookline. So you can avoid that kind of stuff, by looking at fix our pipes and getting active on this.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any other questions? Sure.
Councilor Dibble?
Thank you, Madam Mr. Chair. Bob, you talked a lot about different issues. A couple questions for you. But first, I want to thank you for spending a few hours with me on 2 different days, actually a lot of hours with me on 2 different days, and donating your time to the city of Salem. It meant a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to the residents of Salem. They have no idea who you are, but you had an interest and wanted to help, and I thank you for that. We looked at Auburn Road, and we found no leaks, but that leak was ongoing for 4.5 years, almost 5 years. We looked at Buchanan Road and we found no leaks. So we have some good news. Those streets were leaking for a good number of years and have dead trees or trees that are now gone, maybe some stumps there. On Lincoln Road, we saw the gas company, right after the street was paved, got in there and ripped up the street and dug a trench. On Buffum Street, we found gas leaks half the length of the street on the section of Buffum Street north of School Street. So the neighbors there clearly can smell gas from time to time, but that street was just paved. And I can't believe that we're not working together with the gas company at an efficient level so that the leaks and the line repairs aren't happening before, as Bob just said, before we pave these streets. So Buffum Street is one example, Lincoln Road is another example, March Street has a good-sized leak on it that the gas company came out and did some work on it, but it's still leaking. Brown Street over here was just repaved, right here in downtown, just repaved, I said it earlier, and there's a known gas leak on the street. We went over to Pope Street, and while we're there, we couldn't find a gas leak, but there's evidence of gas leak repairs there. But a resident of Salem pulled up, and you all know who he is, and made a couple of comical comments about what we're doing, and then found out. He said, oh, no, I've been smelling gas by Old Town Hall. So Bob spent an hour studying Derby Square, all around Old Town Hall, the marketplace area, on Front Street, and found a gas leak, albeit a small one, right on the curb line on Front Street, right where this person said there was a gas leak that he smelled. But we found the leak right there, Bob and I, but he went on to explore the whole area around Old Town Hall, on and on, to see if there's might be some more. He didn't find any more, but we did confirm that there's one gas leak there. Bob, you mentioned that you found 30 leaks, or you didn't say you found them, you said there were 30 leaks in Salem. But those are just 30 leaks that you found from the 230 proposed tree locations that we're about to plant trees in this fall. So you tested those 230 locations, found that roughly 30 of them were leaking, ballpark numbers. But there's really over 200 leaks somewhere in Salem. You didn't test them all. You found 30 more of them. But there's a lot more than 30, is that right?
Yeah, I think, I just looked at the heat map, I think there was, like 50 or 60 leaks or something? I tried to get it up. But of the leaks that I found, there was only one on that map. So, I mean, how do you know how many leaks there are? I never looked at the data to analyze the data that Marcos is doing now over at Salem State. We ran the data with the analyzer. It's really good, but the real bread and butter to find the leaks is to get out the way I showed you. It's one thing to have the electronics run around and say, oh yeah, there's a leak over here and there's a leak over here, and yes, the equipment is really good, but to pinpoint the leak, we still need the traditional gas company equipment and traditional gas company procedures to find and pinpoint these leaks. So that's what I do. The analyzer is really great. It can detect all kinds of leaks and really puts them out on the map, but the real bones of the stuff is getting out with the equipment, doing some testing and really identifying the leaks. And the gas company's fully capable of doing that. They can find all the leaks. I think there's just will. I can't, you'd have to ask them why, I'm finding 24 new leaks. I think I had 25 leak reports. There were 30 or 32 planting sites. One of them had 3 or 4 at one leak, there was some with a couple. So, they're fully capable, but it becomes cumbersome for them to keep dealing with these smaller leaks. They're not going to cause an explosion, but damaging your trees. And I want to make one other point about the law. The Boston Gas Leaks Ordinance in the Salem Gas Leak Ordinance addresses valve boxes. And there's a state law that the gas company is not adhering to as well that says that every gate valve needs to be operable. And that means to your home. Most people that have gas to their homes, every home is required to have a gate valve. Does anyone know where their gate valve is? Has anyone ever seen it? Probably not. They're all buried. And every time there's a fire, the gas company comes to the site and they're tasked with shutting the gas off to the burning structure, whether it's gas, most of the times it's not gas related. And almost every time they have to dig the service and cut it off because they can't find the shut-off valve, because they're buried under concrete, they're filled up with dirt, they're broken off. So what you're doing here, at least with the streets, saying you've got to take care of your gate boxes, every homeowner should know where their gate valve is and be able to shut the gas off out at the street. So that's a very important part that's overlooked, and the gas company and the state's been trying to get after the gas company for years for their valve box maintenance, and it keeps getting pushed off. So very good to have that in there.
Any question?
I have one more question here.
Okay.
I think I had the floor, I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yield if I have to.
No, you still have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Bob, can you talk a little bit to educate us, and I still don't know all the significance of the rules on the state law that a few years ago was 10 years to have these grade 3 open air type leaks to have them repaired, but now it's 5 years. Can you just explain what that means?
I'm not sure of the law. I don't know the particulars on how that came to be, whether it was 10 years or 5 years in the bill that Lori Ehrlich did. But I'll say this, I don't believe that, let me put it this way, a very high percentage of these leaks are not grade 3 leaks, in my opinion. I've been grading leaks and I've been teaching guys how to grade leaks at gas companies around the country for the last 20 years and in charge of operator qualification. And they've come up with these leak classifications that allow gas to migrate onto private property, to get into manholes, to get into substructures where you had manholes blow off here in Salem twice. I don't think that these leaks are grade 3s. Somehow they've gotten through this very, very vague leak classification that's been fought for years by Lori and others. They switched it around 2003, 2004, where they really got loosey-goosey and made what we used to call grade 2 leaks, grade 3 leaks. So a grade 3 leak is never, ever supposed to become a hazardous leak. It's always supposed to remain a grade 3 leak. I can't imagine these leaks that are migrating that you've seen, Steve, and others have seen with me, up into private property and in manholes, and, oh, it's a grade 3. It's a grade 3. It's a grade 3. We don't have to fix it. So I have a problem with that, the leak grading, where they're allowing this gas to leak. When a gas company's given a right to put a pipe in, I was told they're given a grant of location. So the city or the municipality allows them, says, okay, yep, you can put the pipe over here. The city engineer gives you a grant of location. That grant of location doesn't mean that your product can go 50 to 100 feet either direction. I don't know where that is, and maybe that's something for the city solicitor. And I don't know what laws the state has other than saying you have to survey your pipes. There's not much law on gas leaks that I've been able to find, and that doesn't mean it isn't out there, but it says, yeah, you have to survey your leaks for safety, and the last thing the gas company wants is to lose a house or a structure. They don't want an explosion, so they fix all those leaks. So that's where the real gray area is. They don't want an explosion. Anything that they deem as an explosion hazard, they fix right away, and they're good about that. They don't want to lose anything. Nobody wants. Everything else gets thrown into a bin, and yeah, we'll get to it. So you don't see a lot of grade 2s anymore. That's I don't know. I don't like that part of the vagueness in the law and the leak classification. But I can't do anything about that. The operators in the state do that.
I don't have any other questions for Bob, but I do have another big thank you for all the dozens and dozens of hours that he has donated to Salem to help us with this problem.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Council Sergeant.
Are they testing for gas leaks on private property, such as like condo associations where the roads are private?
Who, the gas company?
The
gas company's required
Yeah.
to test all their pipes. The service lines, if they're plastic, at least every 5 years. So typically, the gas company does all the service lines every 3 years, regardless of pipeline material. All the mains are done every year here in Massachusetts. So whether it's public or private, they have to test all their mains at least once every year, not to exceed 15 months by state law. So to answer your question, private roads or public, doesn't matter. They still have to test their pipes.
Yeah, that's good, because I know cities don't always test like fire hydrant pressures and fire hydrant flow on
Yeah.
private property, where I always felt like safety should be the main concern, no matter where it's located, that we're able to put a fire out, no matter where it happens.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, it's funny how we have a lot of leaks, but I've had situations where the gas company is calling homeowners, myself included, to replace your line to your house when it doesn't leak. They're calling it routine maintenance. And I really think it's a policy where they want to get all the meters outside. And the main reason for that is because they can come up and shut your gas off outside without having to get into your house. If somebody's not paying their gas bill and the meter's inside, they need some kind of legal permission, warrant, whatever, to get in and shut the gas off. So they want it outside for business reasons, to be able to shut it off. So they seem to be more concerned about replacing lines that don't leak than they are with replacing lines that do leak.
It could be, there's another scenario that it's called the bare steel replacement program. So there are thousands of what they call bare steel service lines, the original service lines that were put in before the turn of the century, in the 1800s and, any time. So they have to replace so many of those each year. They're required to. They've got to get rid of those services. So that may be, it may be the shutoffs. I mean, I know that they have to replace so many steel services every year, and they're trying to parse it out amongst each division, so who knows? That's another reason.
Well, you would think that the leaks would take precedent over replacing the best, those steel lines that don't leak. I know maybe it's two different divisions dealing with two different budgets, but
Well, if you have cast iron joint leaks, that's a main leak. And believe it or not, those mains are in really good shape, a lot of them. Even though they're 100 years old, they just leak at the joints and they crack in the winter. The biggest danger from the cast iron mains, yes, we can kill a tree. Big deal, okay? The other thing is, we can emit this powerful greenhouse gas. But there was a guy up on Eastern Ave in Gloucester that'll tell you a little bit about 6-inch cast iron that blew his house up, Wayne Sargent. And I've been on hundreds and hundreds of broken mains.
very relative.
Is he really?
No, that's my last name, so.
Sargent?
Yeah.
Well, Wayne's house blew up on Eastern Ave in Gloucester,
Gloucester, yeah.
and I used to work 7 days a week in the winter in downtown Boston for Boston Gas, looking for cracked mains. Rich will tell you what happens with the water main. Same thing happens with the gas. And when you get out that 3-inch and 4-inch cast iron is the most brittle, thin-walled pipe out there, and that's the most dangerous. The gas guys could care less about the trees and the lost gas and the leaks, but they are concerned about cracked mains in the winter, and they get very, very nervous. Everyone's worried about losing a house, because when the mains crack, the gas goes everywhere very, very quickly, and it's a very hazardous situation. So the small diameter cast iron, they really want to get out of the ground. It's a bad pipe.
I think that my house, a couple of years ago, was built in the 1890s, and they come every 5 years to replace the meters. They're inside.
7.
7. And the meters are next to, it's two-family, next to the circuit breakers. Now you can't do that, it's gotta be outside.
Yeah.
But when he came and replaced the meter, he said, he's like, this pipe needs to be replaced, the one going out to the street. And it was a steel, it was probably
Bare steel.
original pipe. And then it took them a while to get out there, but they cut on the other side of the street with a gas, and they just slid something.
Slip plastic right in.
That's all they did.
We're all qualified to inspect for atmospheric corrosion. So whenever a guy goes into your house, he fills out a card, an atmospheric corrosion card, because he's supposed to look at the pipe. That's what they got fined for. One of the most things in an explosion in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, was they didn't have their corrosion inspection, which has to be done every 5 years. So they're on these guys, whenever they get a call, they go, look at that pipe coming through the wall. And that's where you look and inspect the pipe. And if there's if it's heavily corroded, and we're trained how to identify that, they have to document that, and then that pipe needs to be replaced as soon as possible. So, it's a good thing. You don't want those old pipes in your house.
There's a lot of old house in Salem, I'm sure. There's a lot of old gas.
Well, there's only, believe it or not, they've inserted a lot of services, and this is some of the information that the city council might want to know is, where are the bare steel? Where is your cast iron? What stuff really needs to get replaced here? And when you look at your long-term plan, that's where you really coordinate stuff and say, geez, get over here. Get this stuff out of here. Get this done.
That's something maybe the plumbing inspector would probably,
I don't think the plumbing inspector gets involved because he's going from the outlet side of the meter. So, you know, the DPU comes out and they do spot checks once in a while, but nobody's looking. I don't think the plumbing inspector does a test, but you would have to ask them. I don't know.
any other questions? Oh, sorry, Counselor Milo.
It's okay.
Council
I don't have a question, but through you, Mr. Chair, just to answer Councilor Dibble's question earlier about the number of gas leaks in Salem. So a couple of years ago, there was an article in the Boston Globe, and it covered, I think it was the first year that the gas company was required to publish the number and location of the leaks. And in Salem, there were 92 at the time, and some of them were up to 25 years old, so they've been around for a while.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear. I'm sure it doesn't take 25 years to kill a tree. I think it's just a couple of months to severely damage and then kill a tree.
I've seen it go on for 10 years.
Just one
Depends on the
comment.
size of the tree. So they can go quickly depending on the gas, or they can just hang on and just look terrible. But thanks, you guys. Oh, any other questions?
The comment, it's kind of interesting in a way that we are finding out that the gas is killing the roots of the trees, and the electric company's tearing them apart from the top. I mean, where they're getting it from both ends. You see some of the trim jobs.
It's slaughter out there.
They make the tree look like a big V. And it seems like a little bit of overkill, pardon the pun, but, yeah, so, thank you.
Counselor.
And then to tag into that, it's also the electric and fiber underground too, because they're not required to take anything out, and then you fill up the streets. So the pipes underground and the conduit are then making the roots not be able to grow.
Counselor Dibble.
If we can just tap, thank you, Mr. Chair, tap Bob's brain a little bit more. If you can just give us a fast education on the rough years and the materials that the pipes in Salem are made out of.
Yeah, well, the original pipes were going to be all cast iron. I can't remember last time I looked at a Salem map, but as I drive around town, most of it was probably put in the late 1800s. You don't have a lot of new streets here. Of course, you educated me about the upper field and lower field. I think the upper field is probably a bit newer neighborhoods up there from the 40s and 50s, up off of Witchcraft Heights.
Talking about
What,
the
40s, 50s neighborhood, Rich? Yeah. So there's a lot of steel up there. That's where they put the bare steel in. Probably, after the turn of the century in the 20s and 30s, they put bare steel mains in, and I think I saw some markouts for bare steel up there, and that's very hazardous pipe as well. They're trying to get that out of the ground. So once you got into around 1970, about 1975, everything they put in is plastic. So they may have relayed a few streets here that were really bad with steel mains, coated steel mains from the 30s, 40s, 50s, but pretty much anything after 1975 they put in plastic unless it's high pressure. I don't think you have any high pressure in town here, but I'm not sure. There may be some lines running through town here, but most of it's probably low and intermediate, less than 100 pounds. I'm pretty sure there's at least two systems here, one a low pressure 10 inches water column, and then another intermediate pressure system running around town. So I've seen the regulators out there on outside meters, so it's hard to tell. It's an old community, as you guys know, 1600s. So old gas system too. We've seen it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Anyone else from the public who should speak?
I just want to introduce myself. Sorry I'm late. I'm Dan Cameron from National Grid. So I've heard a lot here tonight, so if you have any questions, I'd certainly be here to answer any. Just want to introduce myself.
Counselor Lovely.
I do. I'm not sure if you heard my speaking about the construction crews that are
I
doing
did.
work here in Salem. They're parking in neighborhoods overnight, leaving their vehicles, which is not allowed under city ordinances. they're determining to, once we chase them out of a neighborhood, they park their trucks on a street and just put cones around them and leave the trailers there overnight. Backhoes that are unregistered. Over in 2 locations in my ward on Dalton Parkway, there's all yellow parts all over the beautiful, well, now it's kind of in disrepair because they've taken heavy steel plates and thrown them on the grass. There's 3 backhoes on parkland. I talked to the city engineer, and he's been trying to get a hold of somebody to stop that. The company Nuco is one of your...
Yes, one of our vendors.
They were told on one night not to park their vehicles overnight, and they came back. They said, well, we're going to be back in the morning. Dave Norton insisted they come back and move because they're blocking driveways, and they parked there the next night and left their vehicles and had to be called again. I just don't understand why a company like National Grid would allow that, a subcontract, to just have, if you take a ride, you know where Dalton Parkway is?
I know where it is, yes.
Take a ride down there, you see yellow parts strewn all along the midsection of a really nice parkway. I just don't understand. I talked to the city engineer, and he said, no permission from the city to do so. And they, on May Street, a very small street, they came down, just dumped a truckload of sand while they're digging up the street. I mean, I don't see how that's acceptable. I don't know who we speak to about that. 'Cause
Well, I
Dave
can
hasn't
certainly
been able
take
to
that
speak to
back
anybody.
to, we do have National Grid supervisors that oversee the vendors. I mean, I can just tell you on a big picture, National Grid is on a major campaign here to get leak-prone pipe out of the ground. I mean, there's no secret. We are spending a lot of money, and we're trying to do it as efficiently. Obviously, we're limited by weather here in New England. So, saving time for moving vehicles, several miles into the city in the morning, taking them out. If we can work around that, we try to, but if it's not allowed by an ordinance, we'll certainly abide by all your ordinances.
Yeah.
But I think I can take that up with Mr. Knowlton.
Yeah, if I could have somebody, I'd give you my number, if you call me tomorrow or text me who to
Sure.
speak to, because there's a public park, it's green space, there's 3 backhoes on it, nobody's got permission.
Yeah.
They just, I mean, within the city, there's other areas along Jackson Street, which is probably 100 yards
Sure,
away,
yeah.
they could park their vehicles if they asked.
Yeah.
But
Normally those discussions are held ahead of time in staging areas and so forth when we come into an area to replace a pipe, but we'll certainly take that up.
take a ride down
Okay.
Dalton Parkway, and
Yep.
for about 15, 20 feet, I may be exaggerating, there's yellow parts just strewn with boxes, and, I mean, you must have a trailer they can keep that stuff in. Maybe they're not concerned about theft, or kids grabbing it and doing whatever with it. But it's really disturbing, and I know Dave has been trying to get a hold of somebody, and I can't get anybody, so
Yeah.
I'll give you you want my number after, I'll give you my number afterward. And,
Sure.
just who to speak to, because it's just upsetting to the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Thank you.
certainly don't want to...
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
That's it for me, Con.
Thank you. And also, I know we've had these conversations before, and the communication for these repairs, oftentimes notices get delivered door to door.
Yes.
However, we have many units in Salem with several units within one building without people getting things, and also that the actual property owner is not getting notified at the same time. And I know that's the way the current policy works for that, but I've had a couple streets that have had repairs done, and the tenants get it. If something's getting installed in the house and the tenant isn't the property owner.
Yeah, first of all, any project that we start, if everyone's notified at least twice by mail, in addition to the door hangers. The information we use is who's ever on the bill. That's the information that we have.
But whoever's on the bill isn't necessarily the property owner where it's
Yeah,
getting
we
attached
understand
to.
that can be an issue when you have multifamily and so forth, but
Not even
usually there is
multifamily,
a...
It could be a
there-
property that people are using for additional income.
Yeah.
So if there's a way to work on that, and then
We try to get
additionally-
and by doing the door hangers, and sometimes, those letters are mailed out a couple of weeks in advance, 2 to 3 weeks in advance.
I know Grid recently did some work down on March Street, and the woman who did that was able to contact both the property owner and the people who live there, so I don't know how she went about it. It was for the station at the end there for electric. Then also to tap into some of the work that's being done It's making sidewalks on both sides of the street inaccessible, and while we have police officers, they're directing traffic, and people are trying to get to bus stops or just walk to work or walk around town, and there's no place for them to go.
Yeah, traffic management usually work with the police to come up with the best managed plan to get both pedestrians and vehicles around the work
Working
site.
with the police or not, it could be some good best practices going forward that could help in all different communities.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Other questions?
No.
Council Dibble?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan, good to see you again.
Yeah.
For the record, what is your title with National Grid?
Community and customer manager.
Thank you. At our last meeting that we were both present at, I believe it was a Lorax Tree Committee meeting, I'm not sure, but I think it was. I had asked you, when we talked about the coordination that was happening between National Grid with gas line repairs and the city's public services department and
Yep.
paving of streets. That meeting was about 3 months ago now. And I had asked you for some records showing what you worked on in the last 2 years and what you coordinated with the city. And you committed to getting me that list. And after the meeting, I chased out, I met you out in front of the building, and I gave you my name, my cell phone, my email address, everything else, so you would have it. And we talked about getting that list back, so my mind would be put to ease that, yes, there's good coordination happening between our city paving efforts and National Grid's gas repair efforts.
Yes.
I got nothing from you. What happened?
I'm not sure, but I can certainly get, we do have, I think, good coordination here in Salem. We have what we call a Public Works Department, all right, which meets with the Salem Engineering and Public Works Department to review what streets are going to be paved. Usually that's done in the winter for the following year. We also have our own list of streets that we want to replace leak-prone pipe. Those lists, at least on our end, might change depending on what the city's doing. It also is, it's a moving target because during the year, based on funding and so forth, some streets all of a sudden get moved in to the paving schedule for Salem, and some get moved out. So it's a city like Salem where we're trying to replace, where there is a lot of leak-prone pipe to be replaced. It's kind of like it's a back and forth that's held most of the year. But, up front, we try to come up with, a game plan, for the following year. But I apologize if that information wasn't shared with you, but it's probably changed a lot since months ago. Because I know I've been copied on a lot of emails about the paving schedule for both late summer and what's happening this fall, and we're trying to stay ahead of it, both electric and gas, because on the electric side, we also have to adjust manhole covers and so forth when paving's being done.
How far in advance do you make these changes in advance of our paving? How far in advance are you notified?
That's a good question. How quick are we able to mobilize, you mean, or change?
Yeah, if you know that we're going to
Yeah.
be paving a street next year, when do you actually go and do the work, and when are you notified that we're paving?
All right, if the city is doing a street, and it's a street that we definitely need to get into, and will want to get into, what we do is ask, when are you going to be paving it, and what's the window we can get in there and work? 6 months or so ahead of time, that's very, very easy to plan. Now, if there's a sudden change during the year, and this happens in every community, where all of a sudden, in July, maybe some extra funding comes through, and, a certain group of streets or a certain street wants to get paved and it wasn't on our list, that can be very difficult to all of a sudden mobilize to get in and replace, leak-prone pipe. But we do our best. We've done it with as little as, several weeks' notice, to get in there, because like this gentleman said earlier, the last thing we want to do is dig up a street after it's been paved.
My undergraduate degree is in planning. I'm a huge fan of having a plan, bringing the parties, like I did for the city of Salem for a bunch of years. I notified National Grid and Warner Cable and all these other entities back in the 80s and 90s that we're going to rebuild Derby Street, New Derby Street, Essex Street, on and on. And I ordered a meeting like a year in advance. And you folks got out there and made the repairs in advance. What we're seeing today is streets being paved with known gas leaks on it, but we're paving them anyway. we're seeing streets being paved and then have National Grid come and dig them up 1 week after it was paved, on one example, and a short while after another street, 6 months after another street. I know if I had written them all down, I'd have a whole long list. But you seem to get in there after we do paving. So coupled with dead and dying trees and the information that we're hearing from SAFE about how bad these gas leaks are, and then me learning it firsthand, the lack of the conversation that happened at Lorax between yourself and the entire Lorax committee, and then the lack of follow-up information from you, and then me going out and seeing streets in Ward 7 that are brand new paved, and other places in Salem, brand new paved, being dug up, and other streets that have gas leaks that we're just paving. I don't see the coordination happening here, and that's the part of my incentive to put this ordinance forward that requires our gas company to work with the city of Salem on paving our streets in advance of paving. Also, there's a condition in here, or ability in here, for the city of Salem to go after National Grid or any other future name to our gas company on tree damages. Mr. Cameron, does National Grid pay any of their host communities, any other cities and towns, for trees that have been dead or dying because of gas leaks?
I'm not aware that we do that, but I'm not saying I'm privy to all that information either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you cover Newton?
The company does, but I don't. We serve Newton, yes.
Yeah, I believe Newton just settled out of court for a sizable amount of money, and I need to find out what that is.
Yeah.
And I do know of at least 7, maybe 8 or 9 other cities and towns that are in court over these dead and dying trees from gas leaks, for the cities and towns trying to recoup the huge investment that they made to these trees. We need you to, and National Grid, to work with the city of Salem in an intelligent, organized way, which doesn't seem to be happening now, based upon all the examples I'm rattling off. And this is just a few examples. There's a lot more that I'm not aware of, that I didn't write down. It's not being done in an organized way, and this ordinance also provides for a mechanism to allow the city of Salem to go after the gas company to recoup the cost for these dead and dying trees. And it's not a couple of trees, it's a couple of thousand, possibly, trees.
We heard this evening, and we heard earlier today, that about this survey that you did on the 200 or 230 locations you're going to be planting new trees, or attempting to plant new trees. And I think there's about 30 that where there's a presence of gas in that area. Would certainly be, I don't know if they are on our list of gas leaks, but we certainly would be willing to work with the city if we get a hold of that list. We will investigate every one of those locations as well. We certainly don't want to be planting trees where there's a gas issue.
Through the chair, Mr. Cameron, I like you, but based upon the track record of what we've seen over the last 6 months, I don't have a lot of confidence in that statement at all. Based upon the dead and dying trees throughout the city of Salem, the condition of our gas infrastructure, the paving and digging up the streets right afterwards, the paving over known gas leaks, this should not be happening this way. We shouldn't be paving our streets until the gas lines are repaired. And then when they're repaired, then we can pave. We shouldn't have dead and dying trees all over the city of Salem. So I don't have a lot of confidence in your comments right now, and I apologize, because I like you personally.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Lovely.
I just want to interject that there's a lot of work to be done on both sides. I know our Department of Public Works, they work very hard, but we're heading in the right direction to get more cooperation. And I know you feel passionate about this, but I think we have to give them an opportunity to work with us, and I think it's a two-way street. I think if we give them enough notice, I think they probably do their best to try to get the streets done. Are things done perfectly? No, but we're dealing with a municipality, and things don't run like a business, unfortunately, sometimes. It's just the nature of the beast. I wanted to, thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for your willingness to work with the city, and I'm sure you're working with other communities as well.
Yes,
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
Happy October. My name is Jeff Barsnell. I live on 7 West Terrace here in Salem. I'm co-chair of Salem Alliance for the Environment. I haven't been the leading the gas leaks project. That's been on Pat Kazema, my friend and colleague's purview with Dave and Stan and the whole group. I will say that it is, we got interested in this because of the nature, because of the age of our community and our suspicions about the amount of gas leaks that are in this, here in Salem, being an old New England town right on the water. And I encourage you all to come to the Gas Leaks Forum at Salem State at the end of November, November 28th. I was shocked at the preliminary data. And I think it's in the city's best short-term, medium-term, long-term interests to actually understand the gas leaks in our own infrastructure, and this infrastructure that's here in the city of Salem, and then go to the gas company and ask them to work with the city engineer, if they need to provide some sort of data or information regarding our pipes that they don't want out for public scrutiny, and that's understandable. But our city officials need to understand that, and we need to be proactive on putting together a plan as you described. I don't think I think for too long we've relied on groups, organizations outside of Salem to do that. And I think every town in eastern Massachusetts with old, aging infrastructure, be it water, gas, sewer, and whatnot, needs to take a proactive stance. This is especially important with gas leaks. It was mentioned very briefly, but there's another big reason why we are concerned about the amount of methane that's being leaked through these old leaky gas delivery systems, and that has to do with climate change. Every molecule of methane, CH4, is 26 times as powerful a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide, as CO2, over a 100-year period of time. CH4 eventually breaks down into the atmosphere into carbon dioxide, but over 100 years, it is 26 times more powerful. So for every little bit of methane that is leaked in the atmosphere, it has a disproportionate effect potentially on our larger situation as a country and as a planet. And that's the other reason to really look at this, especially here in New England where we rely on gas. It is, whether we like it or not, a transition fuel. We are increasingly relying on gas for electricity, especially here in New England. We need to make sure that network, that distribution system is as leak-free as possible. We need to, if we're going to harness and use methane, we need to make sure that we are burning it and combusting it and not letting it loose into the environment. And if we need to change the business model by which utilities operate in terms of how they prioritize the repairs of that gas infrastructure and pipe, then we need to do that. That's not the city of Salem's purview, granted, but it certainly is within our purview, and it's certainly our responsibility to look after our own immediate system. And I applaud the discussion and your interest in doing that tonight. It's exactly the direction we need to go. And again, I think you will be surprised at some of the data that we found in terms of the leaks. Jefferson Avenue, Winter Street. I encourage you to come to the forum on the 28th. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Probably entertain a motion to keep it in committee to do some more research. There's a lot going on. The spotlight should be kept on the issue. I didn't know about the trees getting killed by the gas leaks. I think a lot of people, it's going to open their eyes.
Motion to keep in committee?
Council Sargent makes a motion to keep in committee, seconded by Councilor Formico. Any further discussion? Councilor Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we adjourn, if I could just put a reminder out to everybody here in this room, but also those at home, to please come to the gas leaks kickoff at Salem State University, November 28th, 6:30 p.m. at the Salem State University Central Campus's Enterprise Center. Again, November 28th, 6:30 p.m. You will learn an incredible amount of gas leaks throughout the entire city. and what we can and should be doing to fix this problem.
Motion
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned by Counselor Sargent. All those in favor? Opposed?